Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa, Paravajakacharya, Stotter to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Paravajakacharya, Stotter to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Nanda Konti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So, text 27. Okay. Page 588, text 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 18th day of November, 2024 in San Diego, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, text number 27, which is the last text in this chapter. Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. Tabas, go ahead. Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. Matthias. Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. Jai Madhava, you want to try? Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. Brahmano hi patishtaham amitasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekantikasya cha. All right, I'll read the word by words. Brahmanaha, of the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. He, certainly, Pratishta, the rest. Aham, I am, Amitasya, of the immortal, of Vyayasya, of the imperishable, cha, also, Shashvatasya, of the eternal, cha, and Dharmasya, of the constitutional position, Sukasya, of happiness, Aikantikasya, ultimate, cha, also. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, and I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Purport. The constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, eternity, and happiness. Brahman is the beginning of transcendental realization. Paramatma, the Supersoul, is the middle, the second stage in transcendental realization, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate realization of the Absolute Truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within the Supreme Person. It is explained in the 7th chapter that material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord impregnates the inferior material nature with fragments of the superior nature, and that is the spiritual touch in the material nature. When a living entity conditioned by this material nature begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage in self-realization. At this stage, the Brahman realized person is transcendental to the material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to the Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many examples of this in the Vedic literature. The 4 Kumaras were situated first in the impersonal Brahman conception of truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. One who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahman runs the risk of falling down. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman, without going further with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the Brahman platform, there is the chance of falling down if one is not engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. In the Vedic language, it is also said, Raso Vaisaha, Rasam Evayam Labdvanandi Bhavati. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendentally blissful. Taittiriya Upanishad 271. The Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences. And when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these 6 opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king. And so eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, and eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman, or eternity, or imperishability, is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in devotional service. The living entity, although Brahman by nature, has the desire to lord it over the material world, and due to this he falls down. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the 3 modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in the different modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these 3 modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering, the prescribed 9 methods of realizing devotional service, should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, by such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord had his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. and observe the fasting days commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in the Brahma Jyoti, or the different varieties of the Brahman conception, is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the three modes of material nature. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. Chad, can you turn the heat off? I don't think we need it now. So these last two verses are very critical for our understanding of Krishna consciousness. In this chapter, Krishna has explored and explained the three modes of material nature. Now, Srila Prabhupada has explained that the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are kind of support the middle 6 chapters, which provide the essence. And we've learned of the three modes before. It's not that we haven't been introduced to them. In chapter 7 especially, we find his famous verse 14, Daivi yesha gunamayi mama maya durutyaya mameva ye papadyante maya metang tarantite. This is a very important verse. Krishna says there that this material energy of mine is actually divine, composed of the material of the modes of nature. Now he's gone through in the earlier part of the chapter describing the material energies, the 5 grosser material energies: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Bhumir, Apo, Olano, Vayu, and then Kang, and then Mano Buddha Devacha. That these 8 material energies, they're unconscious. They're not living energy. This is the lower of his energies. But they're all Krishna's energies. So we live with them all the time. We may not enumerate them such. Bhumi is earth or anything solid. This is Bhumi. Bhumir, Apo, liquids of all kinds. We have a ton of liquid out here. The vast majority water. But there's also blood and all these other things. And Anala is fire. Fire is, we have even in our bodies, fire of digestion, very important. And fire is everywhere. This is all produced by burning fossil fuels or whatever, the sun. And then Vayu, air. Now each one of these elements, there's a deity behind it, right? Mother Bhumi, right? And then there's Varuna for the water, and Vayu for the air, and Agni for the fire. I'm not sure who there is for the ether. Some ethereal figure. Anyway, but in other words, nothing is happening, just like in our body, you see. In other words, an ant comes by, he doesn't know we're alive, you know. For him, we're just a moving mountain that he has to avoid, you know. So we don't see the Varuna, but there's a personality behind, just like there's a personality in every moving body composed of these things. So then you get more and more subtle, the ether, and then comes the mind, intelligence, and ego, more and more subtle. Now it's very important to understand, and this is explained explicitly in the 15th chapter, next chapter, that when this complicated body machine eventually breaks down, it's called death, right? The subtle body that we're occupying, the mind, intelligence, and ego, don't die. That stays with us, provided, assuming that we're going to be reincarnated in another material body. And according to our activities and our karma, and the super soul is seeing what we did and everything, we get just the suitable body to continue our activities, and sometimes it's for punishment. You know, we can easily lose the human form of body. The three modes of nature we just read, one who is situated in the abominable mode of ignorance goes down. Not permanently, there's no eternal damnation, Krishna is very merciful. It's a period of punishment. But you go down, and then gradually you come back up again to the human form of life. Now, the human form of life is key. It's so valuable because of the higher intelligence. We can understand this philosophy. We can read it. It's not so special that we can manipulate the material energy into all of these amazing things, computers, and Prabhupada would always touch on the skyscraper buildings that took so much effort to make. That's just another complication of Maya. That's just Maya's illusion, that somehow we can be happy by, all of this manipulation of material energy. But ultimately, you have to die, Then you leave this material body. Any money you've accrued, family, any relationships, it's all gone. Mrityu sabharas chaham, Krishna says, 10th chapter. By death, I take everything away at death. In other words, everyone sees God eventually. Either you see him as this all-attractive, beautiful Krishna form, or this Brahman form, that's another subordinate form, not the permanent one. Or you see him as death, like Hiranyakashipu, he saw death personified in Lord Nrsingadev. Or just death itself, and takes everything away, or everything material that you're clinging to. So then the logical question is, why spend your whole life trying to enjoy and accumulate these material things when you're going to lose it all, and according to your karma, you're going to take your next birth, which is going to be very traumatic. Death is traumatic, birth is also very traumatic, and old age and disease can be very traumatic. I remember my days in the hospital. Whoa, and I wasn't in, I was on the front lines, kind of. I was the guy who runs up and gives the oxygen when there's some emergency and stuff like that. There was a whole group of us, there were 3 or 4 of us, inhalation therapy department. And I saw so much suffering, I remember emphysema, because we go up there and somebody, a lifetime of smoking, can hardly breathe and can't catch his breath, and that's that's his life. Horrible, So that's material life, is that there's high hopes for success and happiness, but ultimately it all turns to dust. But you don't die. You go on to another life. And in between this life and the next life, you can go to the other place. It's only for a short time between bodies, but it seems like thousands of years because of the suffering. So this is what's going on. So the modes of nature have been introduced, especially this important verse in the 7th chapter. Krishna is describing the working of the material energy, and then he says, "Daivi yesha gunamayi, mama maya adorachera." This is my nature, this material energy, my maya. You see. And it's composed of these 3 modes of nature. Gunamayi. And Gunamayi means composed of these 3 modes of nature. And Daiviyesha Gunamamaya Duratyaya. Now, Duratyaya, we have the translation, which I'm kind of campaigning to change a little bit. It says, the translation is difficult to overcome. Well, when you say something is difficult, it means that if you really try hard, you can do it, right? It's difficult to get into Harvard, but if you study hard, you get it. Material energy is not difficult to overcome. It's impossible to overcome on your own. Because then the next thing Krishna says, difficult to do duratyaya, ma me viye papadyante maya me tang tarantite. Now here comes the sun comes up, but this is a success. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. And Prabhupada gives this wonderful example in the purport. If someone is, because guna can also mean rope, see? So suppose someone ties you to a chair, you never know what's going to happen after that. It's a terrifying situation. But you're tied up. And you can't get free. You're tightly tied, you see? But if some friend comes and says, oh, what happened? He takes a knife or unties you easily. Similarly, if we surrender to Krishna, then he's in charge of those ropes. It's his Maya. He can release us. And that's the whole position of Krishna consciousness. So the point is not to by your own efforts, and this comes up in the purport we read. If you simply get up to the Brahman platform, and these are 3 levels of the manifestation of God, if you will. It's very nicely defined in the Bhagavatam, in the second chapter, first canto. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti padamatmeti bhagavaniti sabjate. You see? So, tattvavidas, those who know the truth, they say, Vadanti, that this Brahman, this absolute truth, is understood in three levels, as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman is compared to sunshine. It's just a very bright light. In fact, when Krishna and Arjuna, if you read the Krishna book, I think near the latter part, there's a scene where there's one Brahman in Dwarka. His wife kept giving birth to these sons, but they all kept dying. I think 9 of them. I think it was 9. And he started complaining to the king. The king is supposed to take care of that kind of stuff. Why are my sons dying? And but it kept happening, and so Arjuna said, "All right, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to put up shoot with his arrows and put up a whole field, force field. It's just described the force field around your house so that you'll be fine." But then it happened again. So if I can't save your next baby, then I'm going to jump into the fire. I promise. So the baby was taken away. It died. And Arjuna was preparing to jump into the fire, and Krishna said, "No, forget that. Come on, come with me. We're going to go get the babies all back." So Krishna got in his chariot, which was able to fly, and off they went. And then they came to the edge of the Brahmajyoti, and Arjuna was blinded by it, and the horses were freaked out, But they eventually got it together, and they went through there. And they came to Mahavishnu Loka, a special Loka, And Mahavishnu said, "Oh, yeah, I took them just so that you would come to see me, you see." And they played the role. They bowed down to the Mahavishnu. As Krishna's playing the role. He's actually the source of Mahavishnu's bow down. Anyway, it's a long story short. They got all the babies back, brought them back, and Brahma was... And then later on, Devaki, she heard about that. She said, "Oh, my 7, was it 7? I think 7 babies were killed by Kamsa." You remember that, when she kept giving birth? No, the 6 of them. The 7th one was Balaram, and he was transferred to the womb of Devaki, to the womb of Rohini. So anyway, Devaki heard about that, and she asked Krishna, "Oh, can you please bring my 6 babies back?" So they went also, and I think to Yamaraj, was it? I forget. But she brought them back, and they were just there with her for a few moments. She was overjoyed, and then they also went off to the next destination, I think, like that. So all these things are going on. But back to the 3 modes of nature. Now we learned what they are. You remember I'm not going to read all of the translations, but the qualities, the things that manifest. If you're in the mode of goodness, then you think in a certain way, you act in a certain way, you attract a certain food, certain kind of music, philosophy, all these different things. Mode of goodness. The problem is that if you're not firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness, then then as is explained, sometime then the mode of passion can take over, and before you know it, you're involved in strong sense gratification, and then you just want to give it all up, just come to peace, and you just let me sleep in. I remember when I was a kid, high school, I'd have to get up at 7 in the morning to get to high school. That was a big austerity, But I did it. But then, it's the weekend. It's Saturday, it's Sunday. You can sleep in 11:30, like... Prabhupada talks about that. People in the mode of ignorance, they get so much pleasure from sleeping, isn't it? In Krishna consciousness, you learn the first thing, if you're serious, you got to get up early. Got to utilize that morning hour. What's it called? Brahma Muhurta. Yeah. Because it's quiet outside, and it's the best time for meditating. So that changes your whole day. It changes your whole outlook. If you actually use your morning for spiritual practice, Krishna consciousness, then your whole attitude toward life changes. The thing is, Krishna consciousness, when you come down to it, it is the only thing that can really give ultimate, substantial meaning to your life. And this is what's amazing, You may be a serious philanthropist or this or that. This is good. It's good, and you get a next life and you meet a devotee, But it's not going to give you the ultimate good, good in life. But Krishna consciousness, you actually have a hope. Oh, this is a path to succeed in the human mission, which is to make it the last life, and to actually discover what your actual nature is. This is what's so wonderful. All of us have a unique relationship with Krishna. And because he's God, he can have a personal relationship with unlimited people. And not just people, animals, everyone. But the human beings, we can understand it. And then if we even graduate from human life, we can be fully awakened again to our eternal blissful existence. And, it sounds, where did you get that from? That's some kind of a conspiracy theory from the internet or something? It doesn't sound real, Come on, everyone knows when you die, So let's try to enjoy as much as possible. And, okay, we'll do it in a wholesome way, No. The reason why we should believe wholeheartedly, and this is a basic foundational thing, is faith. The whole thing is built on faith, and it's not so easy because it's faith in something that you can't see right away, and it sounds fantastical. You read Krishna's Leela. How is that possible? 16,108 queens. Come on, this doesn't compute. And they not even have, and they're all put up in 16,108 palaces in this place that was built on the ocean, No, I'm going to go for the Brahmajyoti. That makes more sense to me, But Brahmajyoti is not secure. Prabhupada would always quote this verse. This is spoken by the demigods when they come. Krishna is going to take birth in the dungeon of Kamsa. And the demigods come in hidden form, and they offer all these prayers. And the most famous one, Prabhupada made it famous by always citing it, to prove that the Brahmajyoti realization is not secure. And this is what they say. It's praying to Krishna in the womb of Devaki. Yen yedavindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayas tabhavad avashuddha buddhaya aruha kutrena param padam tata patantya nadriti yushmarangriya. I don't know if anyone knows that verse. But here's the word Kritrena. Doesn't it sound like Kritrena, like the hard austerities? That's what it is. Sanskrit's such a wonderful language. There's so many of these onomatopoeias, words that sound like what they mean. So what this word, they're saying to Krishna, they've glorified the devotees up to this point. And now they're saying, but there are others besides your devotees. Anye means others. Yenye Adavindaksha, O lotus-eyed Lord, Vimuktamaninas, who by their efforts at realizing Brahman and becoming a little realized, they think they're liberated. Vimuktamaninas, they're liberated in their mind. Manina, mind is my mind. And but unfortunately, Ashtabhavat Avishuddha Buddhaya, their consciousness is not really purified enough. You see, they haven't realized this personal, But by Aruha, that means to rise up, by severe austerities, they may come up to the Brahman platform. Param Padam means the transcendental position. A very few, because what does it require to get Brahman realized without Krishna consciousness? It means you have to, by force of your will, you control the senses and the mind. You don't have that higher taste. You don't have the nice kirtans and the prasadam and the association and the pictures and all the things that draw your mind to the beauty of Krishna, which is transcendental. This is the organic, natural way to transcend the modes of nature. You don't have that. You think that the Absolute is just a white light. Well, how attractive is that, Well, it's attractive because, no more birth, no more old age, no more death, no more disease. You see, it's all no, 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 no. It's like but that's a negative thing. But if you're really suffering, that could be attractive. So they get up there and I always compare it a million times. I've done this to the central deprivation chamber. They have those where they're in a chamber at perfect temperature, and I don't know what they do. Maybe a certain water where you can float in there. I've read about them. I saw in a couple of movies many years ago. But and it's so nice to be in there. But how long can you stay in there? You're lying there maybe an hour, that's it. And they said, what time is it anyway? I got to go to work. So it's not permanent. Similarly, this verse says, because they're impure in intelligence, they're not satisfied there. Eventually it's boring, and they call down. Patantyadho. Patanti means, down. They fall down. Anad, because they're averse to serving your lotus feet. So that the Brahman realization is not for us. It's not something we should aspire for. That's what the Mayavadis are looking for. They believe that in the ultimate issue, everything is nirvishesha. Prabhupada's, Pranamamrita, which he wrote. Nirvishesha means no details. Everything uniform. Simply the white light. And what's the advantage? As I say, what you don't have. Oh, no more birth. Oh, you're in your eternal position. But it's not really your eternal position. It's just the preliminaries. The Brahman, then Paramatma, and then Bhagavan. And Bhagavan really is all that we know. The place, the activities, the using the transcendental senses in serving the Lord. This is what's fulfilling for the soul. And we can do that eternally because it's ever fresh. The point, every day you wake up, there's something new going on. Krishna has new games, different varieties of rasa. It's all transcendental, but it's not mundane. It never gets hackneyed. You never want to leave it, and you never get old. And Satchidananda. So that's what we're looking for. So just so we've been through all of this. What the different qualities of the activities that are controlled by these modes of nature. And then Arjuna asks the key question. It says, how can I, karalingais, what are the characteristics of someone who's transcended the modes? And how can one transcend the modes? So Krishna has a whole list of qualities here, texts 20 to 25. One who does not hate illumination, attachment, or delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering, undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, material modes, and remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in self, regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. So that's quite a list. But the wonderful thing is you don't have to try to develop these all separately. By advancing in devotional service, you automatically equality, And to be equal toward the desirable and undesirable, what does that mean? It means that you're experiencing moment to moment the contact of Krishna in your inner heart. And this is so fulfilling that even when things happen, someone insults you or you get some injury, it doesn't blow up your world. Now what do I do? Because you're contacting Krishna at every moment and feeling his protection, feeling the bliss like that, And so, we've seen, personally, I saw so many people die in that hospital. It's a heart-rending situation. Most of the time they're completely sedated, then unconscious, which is the worst way you want to go. And oftentimes before that, there's so much suffering and so much anxiety because you don't know what the future holds. Your whole life is kind of falling apart that you knew, and you don't know what's to come, and it's very bracing. So I think maybe Krishna put me there to make me serious about Bhagavad Gita. I read the Bhagavad Gita, not Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, the little penguin edition, just the translations, and it struck me because in that hospital you see birth, old age, disease, and death. That's where it all is, And this is what we're promised that that this is to get free of that. That's preliminary. It's interesting because the desire for liberation is an important impetus for moving along in Krishna consciousness. That we can understand. In other words, with a little intelligence, you can understand. Yes, it must not have been very pleasant in the womb. We've been fortunate. Krishna, by his mercy, let us forget. But that was pretty traumatic. not just for the mother, but for the child and all that. All right, birth. And then it's the other three we know firsthand. I mean, old age and disease, you get through that, And then death, you know people who died and you've maybe seen it, it's not a pleasant experience. So that's a universal thing, And all of the sense gratification, that's just an opportunity to forget that. They forget that. Well, yeah, that's too bad, but I always tell this story. Forgive me, I have a certain number of personal stories that are illustrative of these things. But when I lived in Miami, which a lot of people retired to, this was, we had a temple right on the beach, believe it or not. Here I am on the beach again. I don't know, something in my karma. But it was on Miami Beach, and it was a hotel, a former hotel, that somehow we were able to buy. There was a big mortgage we owned, and somehow we paid the mortgage. So, I mean, I was literally, I had a fourth floor place where I was working on the Srimad Bhagavatam for 6 years. I worked on completing the Bhagavatam with Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, wonderful Sanskrit scholar who passed away in 2011, and Ridhyananda Maharaj. I was the English editor. Very fortunate to have that. But I would look out the window, and there were the cruise ships going up this way and then coming back. You see, I look out there, literally on the ocean. And when I got there, they told me they had recently built this boardwalk, just like we have a boardwalk here, And they spent a few $1 million on this long boardwalk so people could walk on it. All right. So, I didn't spend much time on the boardwalk. I hardly went into the ocean. 6 years, I went, maybe the fingers of one hand, you could count it. I think I died by drowning in my last life, because I grew up on Long Island. I went to the beach every Sunday. My father would take us there. And I was a little skinny kid, It was too cold for me to go in there. I just build little sand castles and things, I'd wade in and wade out, I didn't learn to swim until I went to college. It was required that all the freshmen, you had to learn how to swim, so we took swimming courses. But anyway, so the boardwalk. So they built the boardwalk, and then it's a place where a lot of people retire. They come down from New York, and they can afford to rent a room in the hotels. So you would see them. They would be walking along the boardwalk with their canes and everything. And then because of the economics, Brazil, there's always an upper crust. So they had the money. The like 20-year-olds, who had the money. They were able to come up to Miami during the winter down there, and it was much more warmer, of course, up in the northern hemisphere. And they had set up a volleyball net, and they were playing. I think with young women and men, there. And so here's the situation. Just like 25 feet from them, the old people are walking on the boardwalk with their canes, And then the young people there, they're nicely playing volleyball, So. I mean, I knew the mentality, and that is that, hey, I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm constitutionally a young person, and these are constitutionally old people. You know what I mean? It doesn't really dawn on you. You think, hey, I'm going to be like that, before too long. That doesn't happen. You're in the youth, your youthful energy, you're enjoying, That's the whole point. It creates an aura of invincibility and you know what I mean? You probably all had it. So, but from my, Krishna conscious point of view, I could see the irony of it. The whole thing is the illusion of sense gratification, which makes you forget your mortality. That's the whole thing. Is that you have a little inkling of the eternal happiness of spiritual life, but it's fool's gold. It's Maya. It's illusion. It just plants another seed for you, seed of desire, and you desire with those in your mind, and that brings you back to another birth. This is how it works: the state of your mind and your karma. You see. So, what's the solution? We can't give up our desire to enjoy. That's intrinsic to us, but we need to learn how to enjoy by giving Krishna pleasure, and we find that this is a higher and ultimately more intense and lasting pleasure. This word avyayam, I noticed that appeared in the verse here, right? It was kind of merged in. I know this was a hard one to chant with all these long verses. words. Sukas, it says, Amritas yavyayasya. You see that? Amrita, Amritasya, and Avyayasya. That word Avyaya or Avyayasya is the most used word in the Bhagavad Gita. And it means imperishable. Imperishable, immortal. That's its situation. And Shashrata says, Sukasai Kantikasya, the ultimate happiness. The Brahman is the platform of that. But if you're just in the Brahmajyoti, there's a Brahmananda there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the name Brahmananda. He was one of the earliest devotees. But that Brahmananda, if it's just the Brahman that you've reached and you don't aspire for or even know about or even care about, the personal life, then that is ultimately not. It's like a drop of water in the ocean of Premananda, and sense gratification is like a little dropper in the ocean of Brahmananda. You can see how insignificant this sense gratification is, and that's what we know here. You see, so the whole point is to learn how. Or tap into the pleasure that comes from giving Krishna pleasure, and we find that if that becomes your only focus, that you're able to enjoy that, even if your body your senses are not very strong, you're in a wheelchair, whatever it is, you can still be happy because you still have that source of happiness in your heart. What is the reservoir of pleasure? That famous pamphlet. I don't know if you've seen it. We used to distribute it by the millions. This little pamphlet, Krishna Consciousness, and it's one main lecture that Prabhupada gave. That's the bulk of it. There's some other things in there also. But that's the whole point, is that Krishna is an inexhaustible reservoir of pleasure. He is this is from the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Bhyasat. Now Maya, in this configuration, it means full of, made of, Anandamaya Abhyasat. Vyasat means from his activities, when we observe them, we can see that Krishna is always full of bliss. Whether he's killing the demons, or he's dancing with the gopis, or speaking the Bhagavad Gita, he's always blissful. Why not? If you were God, wouldn't you always be blissful? Or you're mixed in a little bit of misery. No. And we are, we just read that. No, we read in the next chapter, Mamai Vangsha Jiva Loka, that every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. Meaning that we are qualitatively one with him. Just like the ocean, right? And you take a little vial of salt water out of there, it's got the same, it's salty. So we are also, by nature, full of bliss. All the time. But that's not where we are now. In the material realm, it's up and down, right? So beyond that duality is this Satchidananda Vigraha, Satchidananda life, which is what we should aspire for. And all of this Krishna consciousness, the knowledge is important. Now I mentioned Shraddha of faith. The Rupa Goswami has given us such a wonderful pair of verses describing the ladder from Shraddha to Prema, from faith to love. So he's Adhav Shraddha, beginning Shraddha, Adhav Shraddha tata sadhu sangha, the bhajana kriya. Tato anartha nivritisa, tato nishta ruchistata. Tata saktas, tata bhavas, tata prema abhyujantati, sadhakanam ayam premna prado beved bhabe krama. Krama means step by step. Very important verse. So in the beginning comes Shraddha. Now Shraddha means faith, but this isn't the pure faith that Lord Chaitanya teaches to Sanatana Goswami. I'll explain that in a minute. But in the middle of this ladder is this word nishta. Now nishta means firm conviction. So that's the really firm faith. This Shraddha, this Adho Shraddha, is the interest, the curiosity, the respect that you come. Just like you've come to the class, well, you have faith that you'll learn something important there. It's good, you see. So that's the Adho Shraddha. If you didn't have that, you can always walk down the corner, bar, I know for sure they got the beer down there, and they're playing the game on the TV. But here, no, I want to see the deities, I want to read the Bhagavad Gita, So that's important faith. It brings you into the association. Adho Shraddha tatak sadhu sangha. Next thing is sadhu sangha. Now in this age, is there anyone online? Maybe on YouTube? Maybe half a dozen. Something like 10 people, more than half a dozen, closer to a dozen. I'm going viral, you know. Hare Krishna, welcome. So somehow people, you know, that, well, they'll get something. There's enough faith to press the right buttons. Your whole life is determined by which buttons you press, right? On the phone or on the iPad, whatever. So they press the buttons to get the class. So you got Prabhupada's translation and purport, so it's successful, whatever I say. So that faith, and what is the result of that is it brings you into the association, either directly or through some media. You know, faith to open the book. You're getting Prabhupada's association. You're getting Krishna's association. Prabhupada said we should always remember. You read Bhagavad Gita. That's why he was so carefully put in the Sanskrit so we could hear it. I know this was a tough verse. I'm sorry, kind of all the long words. But the sound of the Sanskrit, Krishna's very words, is so potent. You know. So I'm sorry, I'm going over time here. But So the whole point of this verse, and this is the last verse, that Krishna is the basis of Brahman. So it's foolish to simply be satisfied with Brahman. One should find out the basis of Brahman. If you get Krishna consciousness, you get the benefits of Brahmananda and you get the benefits of the Paramatma. But much more importantly, you're reinstated in your eternal swarup, your eternal form and relationship with Krishna, which is the platform of, I mentioned about Brahmananda. A drop of that is greater than all of the sense gratification. But Brahmananda is like a drop in the ocean of Premananda, which is what we have. It includes it. So this is very enlivening. And the Prabhupada would often quote, the last two verses are the most quoted here. If you're interested in Brahman, Mayavadi, hey, Krishna is the basis of Brahman. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, just that first half a line. Is enough to defeat the Mayavadis if you have faith. So I'm sorry, I kind of got carried away a little bit. There's not much time for a question. Maybe one quick question, comment. Yes, Prabhu. All right, we have two mics.
So you talked about the process of passing away. Are devotees supposed to avoid sedation regardless of the level of pain when they're passing away? Is there ever room for pain moderation medication?
It can be there, but you definitely want to be conscious. In other words, it can be enough to dull the pain, but you don't want to go out. Because the whole point is you want to be Krishna conscious. You want to be thinking of Krishna when you leave your body. And that is usually facilitated, because I've been present in a lot of these, by being surrounded by devotees chanting. You see? If you're in whether a hospital bed or here, in your home, whatever, that devotees should be with you to help you remember Krishna. Even Prabhupada did that, but he taught us. There was a big kirtan going on, when he departed this world. And so there can be, alleviation of the pain, but not to the point of dulling your consciousness so that you can't, you don't know what's going on. You really want to be fully awake when that moment comes.
And in your experience, have you seen people go through extreme pain, but maintain consciousness by avoiding the sedation drugs?
Yeah, and the thing is that the pain is there, but if you're really absorbed in Krishna, then it doesn't impinge on your consciousness as much. You don't feel it as much. If you're completely absorbed in your body consciousness, and the body is breaking down, then it's much more agonizing. But there's a verse like that. I mean, it's proven. And this is the Sadhu Sangashtaka, where Kapila Dev is teaching his mother, and he says there, yes, I can't remember the Sanskrit, but he's saying that one who is absorbed in hearing of me, you see, then and fully thinking of me by sound vibration, then the material pains do not bother him as much. because the mind is absorbed in me. And Prabhupada gave the example of all people, Stalin, who had to have an operation on his belly, you know, but he didn't want to get the chloroform to go out because he was afraid of getting assassinated. That, I don't know if Prabhupada knew that, but I know for a fact. So he toughed it out. You know, he had this operation, you know, and because of his strong will, he was able to put his mind on something else, I don't know, Karl Marx or something. And so he didn't feel the pain as much. So that's the idea. If you're fully Krishna conscious, then you can tolerate, and that's mentioned in this list of qualities of someone who transcends. Yeah, go ahead. But speak it into...
I just wanted to chime in, maybe like birth, you know, to bring that around. Thank you. Maybe to bring that around, like birth is similar to death. Like you said, it's both a traumatic thing. So I've definitely seen women who have gone through excruciating labors with, you know, no sedation and these things, and they're very much in a meditative state in the same way. In deep prayer, in deep meditation, and their breath work. So in the same way, maybe that might be helpful. That we really want to be somewhat aware and calling out in that deep meditation to the Lord.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, we're almost out of time here. I think we have to adjourn. So just remember one thing: since pleasure is a dream, Krishna is supreme. The aim is prem, and the way is the name. Just keep that as we chant. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And tomorrow we start a new chapter. That's exciting. Chapter 15.
Srila Prabhupada was in great pain at the end of his life also, right?
Yeah, but yeah, he wasn't crying out in agony, that's for sure. All right, sorry.